Hi, welcome to Guitar Time. This is Robert Knoll. Today I want to talk about more about finger placement. Okay, we talked about how important it is in scales to have the fingers next to the fret on the tip portions and not let fingers collapse. So once again, when we play chords, we want to see them as geometric shapes, and we want fingers placed next to the fret whenever possible, right up next to the fret. Now sometimes we have to compensate, but that little D chord should look like a triangle shape. Every finger right up next to the fret. Very important. C chord, same thing. I've got my C next to the fret, the E, the open G is sounding, the C. Everything is right next to the fret. Big C chord. A chord like E minor, well, here we have a problem. It's not physically possible to get all the fingers next to the fret, but my third finger is hugging the fret. My second finger is as close as I can get, right up against my third finger. If I made that an E chord, my first finger would be right up next to the fret, as is my third finger. Let's see a G chord. A lot of ways to finger a G chord, but if I'm using 2, 1, 3, everything's hugging the fret, right up against the frets. That little F chord everyone loves. Favorite chord of everyone, right? Notice my index finger nail pointing out that way. My fingers are veering in. Sometimes we veer. I like to use that word. I'm veering in so that my fingers get next to the fret on the tip portion, and I get the sound of every note. If I'm barring, fingers right next to the fret. It's not anywhere in there. That would be wrong. We want your fingers to learn one position to play. Little D7, everything next to the fret. G7, everything next to the fret. A minor, it's like E minor. It's not physically possible to have that second finger next to the fret, but my third finger is, and my first finger is right up next to the fret. So the finger placement is very, very important. We always want to get fingers next to the fret. And it will be the same when we do other styles of chords and bar chords, bar chord forms and groovy chords with our thumb. Whenever possible, the rule is you always hug the fret, whenever possible. And this way, you're better at playing chords than the person that hasn't learned this, because your fingers are used to playing in one way, always against the fret. So you're less apt to make mistakes like the person that was never taught this. This is the problem with a lot of beginners that learn on their own, and sometimes they go on to become intermediate players and pro players, but they were never taught right. And the guy that knows about finger placement and caring about how his fingers are placed is usually the better player, because his fingers look good and they sound good. If they look good, they sound good. They have to be up against the frets. Sometimes we have to finagle a little bit. Finagle's a great word, because we have to get open strings sometimes, and fingers can interfere. So we have to want to always have fingers next to fret, but we have to make sure the right portion of the finger is in there. Do we need to veer into the chord? Do we have to change the positioning a little bit? But we always hug the frets so that you get clear sounds on chords, all chords. Anytime we've got to put fingers out and stretch, they're as close to the fret as we can get, always. It's a rule. It's a very good rule for orthodox playing. So go over the chords that you already know and make them look good, correct them, and keep working on it until that's the way you play. Like I've said before, it's the same thing with scale playing. We always play next to the fret. When we play scales, we hug the frets. When we play chords, we always hug the frets. All right? So practice, be diligent, and keep working on it until your chords sound great and your finger placement is wonderful, you're going to be glad you did this, glad you learned this and worked on this. Practice.